In Washington, D.C. tonight, the stage is set for the inauguration of the 46th President of the United States. Thousands of American flags are taking the place of people on the National Mall. The political violence and the pandemic means this inauguration will be unlike any in American history. This evening, President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris took part in a ceremony at the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool, where 400 lights were illuminated along the edge of the pool, each light representing 1,000 Americans who have died of COVID-19.
To heal, we must remember. It's hard sometimes to remember, but that's how we heal. It's important to do that as a nation.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us. There will be more troops than American civilians in the streets of Washington for this inauguration. It is traditionally a centerpiece of the peaceful transfer of power, but Washington right now is like a fortress, and fear of more political violence is real. We have complete coverage tonight, beginning with our Washington bureau chief, Jackson Proskow. Jackson?
Well, Donna, an inauguration is supposed to be a celebration of a new administration, but that's not the case this time around, with dual crises facing Joe Biden, the pandemic and national security concerns.
Nothing about this inauguration is typical. Instead of cheering crowds, thousands of flags will flutter silently on the National Mall. Questions still linger about whether it's safe to swear in President-elect Joe Biden on the steps of the Capitol. At least a dozen National Guard members who were set to protect the inauguration have been relieved of duty over concerns about potential links to far-right militias.
Extremism is not tolerated in any branch of the United States military.
I know these are dark times, but there's always light.
An emotional Biden is pressing ahead. Tears stream down his face as he bid farewell to friends and supporters in Delaware before departing for Washington.
Excuse the emotion. But when I die, Delaware will be written on my heart.
At the White House, President Trump has spent his final days in seclusion, recording a farewell message to supporters that still does not mention Biden by name.
This week, we inaugurate a new administration and pray for its success in keeping America safe and prosperous.
Trump is the first president in more than 150 years to shun the swearing-in of his successor, despite receiving the courtesy himself 4 years ago.
And to not do it, I think, is really leaving a blank in democracy and really hurting the exercise of this extremely wonderful moment.
Trump still refuses to acknowledge he lost the election as he faces the prospect of a post-presidential impeachment trial for inciting the mob that stormed the Capitol.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
On his last day in office, it's clear Trump's influence is waning as Republican leaders plot how to move on from the lie that fractured the nation toward a new president who has promised unity.
Trump will receive a formal send-off tomorrow morning as he departs for his new life in Florida. But in a sign of how isolated he is in these final 24 hours in office, his vice president, Mike Pence, will not be there to see him off. Instead, Pence will be right here at the Capitol building for the inauguration of Joe Biden. Donna?
Will be a remarkable day. Jackson Proskow in Washington, thanks.